This is, again, the most simplified robot that we have. Only trades 1 hour, so let's talk about some things about Lunchbot. Why 1 hour and why lunchtime? So the concept is fairly simple. When are news events scheduled, right? We know some things, like Wednesdays, we got crude oil inventories, we got FOMCs that happen at 2 o'clock. We've got housing numbers. We've got on Thursdays, we know that there are certain news events in the morning, 8 a.m. Always going to have those Red Star news events. Friday, same thing. But what time is there that we can consistently across all days? There's no news. Lunch hour, right? There it is. Very simple. Is that the lunch hour is the time that we want to execute these, let these go. It's strictly technicals, at least in theory, right? Yeah, somebody could tweet something crazy, or something could happen, macro and economic event. Probably a good idea if you're going to be running any bots, again, ones especially that are running across that many instruments, controlling a larger account size, like a $50,000 account size, that you are going to want to really keep your eye on the news. So how would you keep an eye on the news? This is something that you want to be able to do. In our room, pull up the section over here and just click on the left on news. Now, I really want you to keep the lobby chat still open with the members here, but right click and open up another one. So I'm sorry, right click on this tab and duplicate. Super handy way to duplicate this. Again, why I tell you guys, do not use the Discord app, okay? A browser is much, much better for many reasons. Everything from copy pasting images to being able to duplicate tabs, lots of reasons. Just trust me, if you don't know why, just do it. So now I'm here, I've got one tab open here, and I can go to news, okay? This is gonna be all of the important news is streamed into this room here. You can just basically just wait for something to pop up in here, and you can read if there's something crazy going on. And then you can click right to the link. If you're like, oh, China's rules, party censors, pass it. Oh, okay, that might be important. Let's go click on that. So click it and go to it. Disney delays test crews and inconsistent COVID-19 test results. Maybe that's something. Okay, who knows? But if there's something, NASDAQ, S&P 500 hit all-time highs fueled by tech stocks as investors expect a robust earnings season, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so earnings season coming up here. Very cool to think about. Okay, so another one just came up. See that one there? Buffett and Munger TV interview coming up at the top of the hour. Okay, so again, nothing important on that one, but if something popped through, this might be a good way to do it. Maybe have some CNBC on the background if you're running robots. Again, because if some major news event, like breaking news, such and such and such and such, okay, maybe just turn off the bots. It's the time to, hit the, pull the breaker, right, kind of thing. So hopefully that's helpful, tracking through on the news through our room, or, having a real-time news service. But by the time you get it through the television, folks, there's also seconds delay. So I would recommend using our news chat room there. That's going to come directly via tweets. And again, somebody can pop out, 240 characters of text very, very quickly. And it is really, in my opinion, probably the fastest free way to get news quickly. So I've shown you guys how to grab performance reports from current stuff. Let's move on to something a little more complex. I don't want to necessarily close those out yet. I want to bring those back over. So let's talk about optimizations and finding out whether or not we can get some better settings. Now, one thing to note about Lunchbot is the only thing that I want you to focus on optimizations, okay? Because you're gonna be like, if you're a new person, don't let your eyes start to cross yet. Okay, where you're kind of like, oh, I don't want to get into all this. I've looked at this type of stuff before. You're dealing with parameters, all that kind of stuff. Optimizations. For Lunchbot, one parameter, okay? You can handle this, okay? Again, the reason that I put the Lunchbot in this pack for gold members, again, this is really to kind of get your feet wet, to know whether or not this is something you want to work with. If you're into analysis on internals to graphs like we just saw in analyzing your P&L, your drawdown, all that. If that's your thing, great. And this is very simple to get into because it's a single parameter for optimization. Now, what is optimization? We'll talk about that a little bit. I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail tonight because I really want to focus around how to optimize for Lunchbot. There are other videos around what exactly is optimization. So let's just get right into the parameter that we want to optimize, okay? Which is very simply which data series we want to run on, okay? That's it. Okay, data series. So these right now we've got NASDAQ on the 8s, YM on the 3s, RTY on the 2s, ES on the 2s. Okay, now how do we get that information? Okay, how do you know which one? This is what we're going to do with optimization. All right, so first thing you want to do, come up here into your control center window, and you want to do a new strategy analyzer. If you've never used this before, again, this is a new thing. I want to say new, might be new to you, okay, but this is something that you really you need to know what it is, okay? This is how you do it. We're analyzing the strategy itself, and we want to find ideal parameters for our strategy. So to do that, we use something called the strategy analyzer inside of Ninjatrader. One of the awesome features of Ninjatrader that, in my opinion, is greater than all other platforms. Nothing comes close to Ninjatrader, folks. I don't care if people want to come argue with me, dude. Come argue with me. I can prove it all day that Ninjatraders is superior to every other platform that's out there available to, at least to the retail traders. There might be something behind the scenes that I've never seen before, but there is nothing better. Let's go into, so this is what the strategy analyzer looks like. Okay. I want to do, okay, we've already got it on currency. Awesome. I don't want to do a back test. I want to do optimization. So first thing here that we're going to drop down, okay, back test type. We want to do an optimization. Now, if you've seen our old videos on NT78, a lot of this has changed. So take notes if you are first time in NT8. A lot of this stuff has changed. It's over here on the right now. So I'm going to hit the drop down, select optimization, and then I need to select what we're optimizing. In this case, we're doing Lunchbot. All right. So remember what I said before was I really only want to optimize for one thing, and that's going to be your data series. A little bit of a different thing here, okay? But just know this is all we care about right here, data series. Okay. So for the instrument selection, I would like to do this across all. Let's see. All right, so we're gonna show you guys how to optimize for range. We'll do a whole nother video on optimizing algo bars, a little bit trickier there. And range values are actually gonna give you a little bit better data anyways, because the thing about algo bars is they have real opens but fake closes. And there's a whole lot of details around some of that, you know, I don't, I'm just gonna do it like, we'll just put it this way. We'll put a whole nother video on that. And I'll show you, I think I've shown you guys already how you can go into the charts and you can change those manually if you want to see them on algo bars. Algo bars really only have a very small set of ranges. You're either going 1 through 8, so you'll kind of have to play with those, but you can kind of get those from a range. If you're using range, another advantage about using range bars instead of algo bars is that you can actually just come right in here, set this setting, and then let it rip. Okay. So I'm going to go right here. One of the check marks that you have to come down, very important. If you are wondering why you don't have the settings, listen, this is a very important part of the video. Please pay attention, because I know I'm going to get 1,000 questions on this if you don't get this. You've got to come down here to this section, and you need to click this button. If you don't click Optimize Data Series, it won't be there. Everybody got what I just said? Make sure you click on the Optimize Data Series right there, or you will not have these settings. All right. So optimize data series, and then go back up, and then you will have this value list right here. The way that value list works is it has a minimum, a maximum, and an increment. Okay, the first one is the minimum, obviously, second one's maximum, and we're incrementing. Now, again, you can increment by 2s, 3s, 4s. Again, we want all of them. We want to try multiples of these. And again, we're doing on Lunchbot, we want small increments anyways, but if you want to try this later on and play with these, again, this is where the freedom of this comes to you. Again, freedom can be good, freedom can be bad. You know, handing somebody a loaded gun, just be very careful with this. Now, I'm not going to go on a 1 on these. I like to start mine at 2s to be the lowest range that I'm ever going to do. Okay. And the high side I'm going to do is 12, and because of time, I don't want it to take too long to optimize here. I'm going to set this to a 2, a 12, and a 2. And you see how those filled those in. So you can do it like this with semicolons. Again, kind of pro. You're going to get to a level where you just got to put them in by semicolons. Right here on my instruments, I've just selected the drop down for futures, which is going to basically do all instruments. How do you do that? Again, you can select an individual instrument. So if you want to optimize for just a single instrument, hit the drop down for that. If I want all the futures, select futures and hit select all. right up here. Okay, so it's going to run them across all of them, or you can create a custom group, and we'll go into that in maybe another detail as well, but you can create your own group, and you can basically select the group from this list. So you can create like a Vinny's group, which will be only your 6 or 7 instruments, etc. Okay, so right here, I'm just going to let these run, and let's scroll down here to how long. So I want to optimize for the latest 2 weeks. I typically want to, you know, this is a scenario. Again, you can go back as far as you want. If you want to get crazy with it, go to your heart's content. You're going to look for my suggestion. Again, I'm going to run this back for only around a 2-week time period. So today is June. So let's go here, June. And today is the 28th. Back to the 18th here. And I'll predict this for another day. And okay, go ahead and include commission. This is not going to work unless you've created commission templates. Again, we've done that in other videos, but go make sure you got that set. And order fill resolution, standard fastest is fine. Now slippage, you may want to set this to 1. I'm going to leave it at 0 for right now, but you know, in reality, you may slip a tick. So you start needing to make adjustments to it and really want to get really super fine tuned, put this to slippage 1. What this means is on entry, if you're doing a market order, oftentimes you will slip a tick, and you can actually simulate that with a slippage of 1. Okay, but I'm going to leave it to 0 for right now for this situation. But if we have a time, we'll do both and show you the difference between the two. Keep best results 10. So if you want to up and increase this, like basically the higher this goes, the more accurate this becomes. However, you got to be careful, you'll end up overfitting. But in this is one that I say, look, as high as you can go for this. If you've got a lot of time where you don't, if you're not trying to do this short, I would double this. Okay, keep best results. I would keep top 20. Okay, you will find that you will get better results at 20 than you will with 10. So just keep that in mind if you got the time to run it. Okay, tonight we're going to keep things a little bit short. Optimize data series, we already checked on that. Max profit factor. Now, some people want to optimize on the max profit factor. I personally don't like that one. I'm going to go for the max net profit right here. Now, there are other things, a lot of factors. Again, a lot of things. Here's where, again, where I tell people, like, look, don't get lost in the weeds, okay? If you are, I don't want you to focus on Lunchbot. If you are a new trader and you're getting into our system, please, please, please focus on becoming a great trader manually. Come back later and figure out how automation works. Once you have already, when you know you can do this by hand, then come in here and start playing with all this stuff. I know it's a lot of fun. I know it's a lot of, super tempting to just be like, let me just dive bomb into all this stuff. Okay, but look, there is a lot to all the different settings and stuff that you can play with this. Very, very cool stuff. So I'm going to hit on this lightly, but there are a lot of things you can optimize where you can optimize for minimum drawdown. Okay, if you're like, if you're siding on the side of fear, like, okay, well, how do I have the absolute minimum drawdown? Okay, that can be something you can, do, but it may not be maximizing your net profit. And in my case right now, again, I'm not that risk averse, so I'm going to go for max net profit. That's now. I pretty much never use the default optimizer. In very rare cases, this is one that I would. You can use the default here. I may run these side by side tonight just to see if I can run both of them in a relatively decent amount of time, because it's only a single parameter. So if you got single parameter, use default, okay, which is what we do. Okay, we do have just a single parameter that we are optimizing for, okay? But if you've got multiple parameters, you definitely want to do genetic. Now, you can go and look up the reasons for the difference between the default and genetic. Default, the simple short answer of this is it's going to try every value that there possibly is, every combination out there, one after the other. A genetic one is going to be doing like a binary tree and finding things and basically not trying everything, but using a binary tree effect to come down to a better, to its best conclusion. But if you're, which one is more accurate? The default. Okay. Genetic is not as, but it's faster. Simple way to answer that. You guys can go do super in-depth studies on that through some of Ninjatrader's website information. And the rest of those I am going to leave. Okay, so take a screenshot of what we've got here. Got it? All right, we're gonna go ahead and run. Now I'll probably pause the video here while this is running, but when you click on run, you will see iteration numbers down here. It's gonna do 120 iterations. So let's see how long this takes, and we'll come back here when it's finished. But this is basically going to go out there and it's trying all the combinations over the last 2 weeks, running all of the different options, and going to kick out to you what would have been the absolute best parameters for the last 2 weeks. And the assumption, you guys have probably seen a lot of my videos on how we do optimizations, but I'll go ahead and hit it right here. The idea is that when you are doing in a walk forward, that you need a test bed window, which is what we're currently running, and then a projection window. So sliding window, sliding to the right, and we are gathering our information from this window of time, and we want to overlay it and assume that this next section, if we were to find the absolute best settings for this section right here, that in theory, if we're running just one more section, that those settings will be good for here as well. Okay, now again, if the market completely shifts in a single day, and again, that can happen, right? You guys, we see it all the time, which is why we don't want to overfit. We're not trying to like super curve fit this thing to make sure that we're getting, you know, the absolute, you know, what's the squeeze every last penny out of everything that we do here on it. It's because it's not going to work, because it's not going to be exactly what the market's never going to be exactly the same as the prior 2 weeks. But if we get 2 weeks is generally a good idea of where the current market conditions are in and hasn't made a big shift. But what are the exceptions? Places like, all right, we've had earnings report coming up, might be a huge change and shift. We've got contract rollover times might be a big shift, right? Where the last 2 weeks, if we go into a contract rollover, is that going to look the same? No. In fact, these are times where you want to lay off Lunchbot. And there are times that we're going to be talking about where you don't want Lunchbot to be run. And we'll go through kind of a list of those times in some of our trainings as well. All right, so we'll go ahead and pause the video here and let this thing kind of run out, and we'll come back. All right, so we're back. Let's take a peek at some of our stats here. So I'm going to come down here to the bottom of this list, and again, there's a lot here that you need to kind of get used to and familiar with. I don't know if it's going to help to full screen this or not. We'll try it. Okay, so let's pull this down a little bit. So again, this ran this over a lot of instruments. Again, when I said before that you may want to create a subset of instruments so that you're not running across, you know, absolutely everything, but I wanted to show you guys how you can basically let this kick out and run and tell you what settings to run across any instrument. I don't care what it is. Again, you can pick out your 7 or 8 instruments that you want to run across and keep them, you know, in balance, so that what we talked about there with overlaying our P&L curves, right? That we get a nice smooth, hopefully 45-degree-ish angle. The upward direction is a good idea, right? So again, we've got you know, stuff that we don't trade very often. We got 6B, okay? We got 6E, the euro. We got the British pound. We've got micros in here. We've got the Z's. Oh, the snoozers are in here. I have a feeling those don't do too well. Yeah. So again, those actually had negative total profits for that time period. What's the most negative? Actually, NQ, interestingly enough. So I want to show something about this. Let's start with, I always like to try to find the outlier, the one that had a problem, okay? So the one that I either want to, big red flag, either turn off, okay? We know that NQ is currently, looks like we're having some problems with NQ. It could not find, out of all of its iterations over the last 2 weeks, the best that it could find was minus 1,500. So I like to look at this one first and see if there is some reason or outlier day on this one. So I'm going to go into the analysis right here on NQ, okay? Ooh, so NQ does not look good over this 2 week time period, okay? Now let me look to see what its settings were. Let's click on, let's go to its settings, and so I hit the drop down here and I'm selecting settings, okay? And what I care about is what range. So value. The best it could find was the 10 range. Okay, so on the 10 range, out of all the others, now I would like to see multiple iterations of the NQ, okay? So underneath it, here were the other ones. So if I hit the drop down here, still not showing me all of them. Again, we had 10 selected before. Remember when I said earlier that you could change this from 10 iterations to like 20? I would want to see more of these. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back and I'm going to run a separate one of these only for NQ. So let's go ahead and start one of those while we continue to do analysis right here. I'm going to let that run so I can get that deep analysis. Let's do a new strategy analyzer window so I can keep this one open. Okay, so here are our current results, and I'm going to go new, and I'm going to grab another strategy analyzer. All right, and I'm going to select only NQ this time. So we're going to do an optimization, and we're going to Okay, I'm gonna make a bunch of changes here, so we'll pause the video here, and then I'll come back and I'll talk to you guys about what I'm setting up. But I'm basically setting up the exact same settings that I did before, but on just NQ. The magic of the time machine that is pre-recorded stuff here. I have selected our Lunchbot, and we've got our same ranges that we set up. And you see right here on NQ, so I've hit the drop down here. We're gonna run it exclusively on NQ, and you notice down here I have increased my keep best results from 10 to 20, like we had talked before, and max net profit, of course. And we're gonna go ahead and let this guy run while we continue on. Well, while we're letting that NQ rerun, and basically that's what I'll do. I'll find my heaviest hitter and go, okay, let's go rerun that one, see what's up with that one. Now, let's put these in order. If I click on total net profit, we can see the lowest one at the very top, so the one that I want to focus on. Do I care about the Z's? No, I'm probably never going to do the Z's, and these are micros, so I really don't care about those either. So no real standouts here. I can basically X out pretty much all of those. So my only outlier that I am concerned with, because I do want to run NQ, okay, so I'll take those out. Now again, we could just, well, that just tells you what we want to do. I'll just scratch NQ right now as well. Again, might be a little bit too risky, you know, for yourself or, you know, anybody else, like maybe NQ, just leave it off, okay? But if I want to see if I can get it to work, that's what I'm going to try to do with that run. And actually, I see up top right, it's actually done. And I believe the best one it came back with was a -200. So it does not look like over the last 2 weeks that it's very happy trying to run via range on our setup, and sometimes that's going to happen. Now, one thing that I do want to do, I'm going to make, since that didn't take very long, I'm going to increase the range. So here's one thing that we want to do now. So we have been running this through, again, this is human, right, making the decision on the values between 2 and 12 that we did before. I'm going to increase this, and I'm going to change the increment value as well. So I'm going to let it, since it was pretty fast, even on the default optimizer, because again, like I said before, if it's just a single parameter, it should be able to, again, your computer's cranking, right? If you got a good machine like the one I'm running on, and most of you guys do now, this should not be a problem. So I'm going to go ahead, and I'm not going to do any lower than 2. Like, I don't even trade on the ones on NQ, so let's not be absolutely crazy. But the max here, let's go all the way up, and we'll run up to 24 and double the amount of range and increase the number of sets. Now, again, this is going to take longer now, okay, because think about the iteration sets that it's going to have to do. A lot more, and you guys are smart. You guys kind of get it. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to let that run again and see if we can still get anything out of NQ, because look at what my numbers came up. The best one was -283 Okay, now let's look at the setting on that. Let me see how high that was. On this one, 88 trades, 51% profit. Again, profit factor 0.97 and barely over 50%. The commissions are actually the main problem there. So yes, it was profitable, but after commissions, it wasn't. You guys see that, how I'm including commissions? So that's 958, that's subtracting from that. Now, if we take out commissions, you know, again, it's up to you if you want to include them, not include them, you know, but I like to know what that's going to be. So again, we're in a loss for the commission style. Now, for the commission set. It's quite a few trades here for 2 weeks as well, just during the lunch hour. So again, we may want to increase the period. So let's go ahead and let that run. And I feel like there was one more thing I wanted to pause. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and kick this one off, and let's see if we can find anything. And if not, you know what? We will just make the decision to leave NQ off of our list, because again, that's what we're trying to find is, you know, let's find out what's going to be running best for ourselves, and we want to, you know, optimize that. All right. Let's scroll on down here, and maybe we trade, you know, NASDAQ by hand during the lunch hour, right? That could be an option as well, because again, you're using your robot, treating it like an employee. The employee is also working. You can work, you know, hand in hand simultaneously, right? All right, so combined results, though, over all those, even with the -1500 on our results over the last 2 weeks, we could reach a potential of 12,400. And that's after a $3,700 commission, quite a few trades. Again, this is across think about this. This is across all instruments every day at lunch for an hour, letting the trade system go. Okay, so, you know, that's not too bad. Again, if you want to run it over all these, again, there's nothing stopping you from it. My suggestion, though, is, again, to narrow it to your top 7. So if you were to come in here, it looks like actually FDAX, again, something I really don't trade, because this is $32 a contract. Okay, so if you're wondering why that's so high, it's probably same hit count, but again, that's $32.50 per tick. So, you know, it really kind of throws out of balance if you're running the FDAX, and it can run out of balance both directions. Again, on a risk day where this takes a drawdown, you know, it's also, you know, triple the risk of gold, right? Almost triple the risk of ES at $12.50 per tick. So just keep that in mind if you're looking at that. So, you know, of that 12,000, yikes, 8,000 of that was FDAX. So again, I'd probably take that one off the list too, which leaves me with over the 2-week time period here, that its ideal was finding that with total after commissions and everything is somewhere in the neighborhood of around $4,000 over the last 2 weeks. Does that make sense? So this is how, again, you really kind of got to dig into the stats, and you got to be kind of a stat nerd, you know, to really, you know, hopefully, I'm not saying hopefully, I don't really mind if you love full auto. If you don't love full auto, it's really kind of a personal preference. If you like it, great. If you want it to augment what you're doing, fantastic. If it's not your bag of tea and this is like your eyes start to cross when you see big charts like this of numbers, I totally get that, right? I hear that all the time. Oh, it's just, okay, this is too much going on. It's a mess. I don't want to deal with it. Other people are like, oh, this is great. You know, totally nerding out here. Like, I'm going to click on gold and I'm going to look at all the different runs. So its best run was 2,200. Okay, the others were minus 1,000, minus 1. Okay, yeah, here's a plus 300. Yeah, but this one, that one. So now let me click on this. Let me look what the settings were. So main thing that we want to get from this is you're basically just want to look at the settings. Okay, so you flip this to the settings, and hopefully you can just flip through each one of these. Okay, so GC, just look at the setting. What's the range? This is on a value of 2. Again, and I've always told you guys, if you want to leave it at default, pretty much just run everything on, you know, the 2s by default. And oftentimes it's going to either be the 2s, the 5s, or the 8s, which you guys have always known that's kind of our bread and butter, what we run off of anyhow. There are in-betweens, but, you know, somewhere in the neighborhood, keep it low. Okay, we're targeting small, so I really wouldn't go anything, you know, higher than a 10. Although I just saw NQ's stats just completed. Let's see what NQ needed to run. Now, mind you, NQ is that crazy, you know, she just goes nuts, right? So let's see. So we did achieve a $1,600 result, and all these were actually positive on all of its top runs. Not all of them, I should take. But on its best runs, we got as high as 1,600 with a profit factor of 1.24. And max drawdown 1,500 to make 1,600. Still, again, pretty close here. Now, mind you, look at this one. Remember how we said before, like looking between your max drawdown? Focus here on a max drawdown. If we were selecting, instead of optimizing on max net profit, if we were optimizing on max drawdown, do you see how this run would have run higher? So let's look at the difference between the two. The parameters I can see over here on the left. The top one was running on a 16 range. The second one was a 21. This is a 15. I can see it right here. Okay. But if we want to look at the actual stats and look at the settings, we'll click right here, hit the drop down for settings. So that's a 21. So the very top one, again, with little, you know, more max drawdown, but you made 1,600. That was on the 16 range. See how to read this? So this one, I can read that number right there. Hopefully you guys get that. It's a little, okay, it's the left number right there. Okay, those are the parameter sets. True, 50, 70, and that first one is the data series. Okay, so
connection
again,
lost.
that's what we're really focused on. Oh no, I just lose connection. Are we still here? Yeah. Video's running long, I know. I told you guys it's gonna be more in depth and it's gonna be a while. Okay, so you would want to either pick 16 or 21. Okay, if you would rather have a smaller drawdown and a little bit less money, right? In fact, that was probably what I would do. I would run this off of the 21s. And again, that's just how I would do it. Okay. Okay, I do see that I'm losing connection to the lost internet. Like I might have lost internet, but I believe I'm still recording here, so we'll just keep pressing on here, and I'll figure out the internet situation going on, which is a little bit unnerving. You know, you definitely don't want your internet dropping out on you. That can be bad. All right, so in queue, yes. So I would probably be selecting this one as we talked about before. Lower drawdown, and again, the only difference is around 200 bucks. Yeah, so I'm gonna go with the one that's lower there, which is gonna be on the 21 range, and again, it's probably also gonna be less in commissions and numbers of trades. Yeah, so almost half the trades for, you know, a $200 difference. Another thing that you might want to look at there. Okay, total number of trades to get that achieve this top one is 56 trades. This one can get $200 less in 28, right? See, pretty easy to see the numbers on that. So again, you can get really, you know, deep dive into your stats. There's your profit factors. Again, you guys, oh, actually number 2 is also the highest profit factor. So again, that's a big thing for me that I kind of teach you guys. And you know, digging into those stats is what we're wanting to do there on that. Okay, so that's your NQ solution. Hopefully you guys learned from that. So if you do have a run where one of them is an outlier and it's not quite right, go run it again by itself. You guys got that? So first, run them all at once. Then the ones that have problems, find that. Now, if I want to grab my settings, very simple, right? Now, how you want to do this, you can either write it down or keep it off on the right if you've got multiple screens. You know, I tend to like to kind of like, okay, let me grab this, I'll put this up here, and now I'm going to come into my charts and I'm going to set the settings, right? So for ES, so I want to know like what's the ideal for ES, all right? So I'll come right here, click on ES, all right, and right there, so it's going to be a 4. See that period 4? If I hold my mouse over it, it also gives you this nice little drop down. So period, so 4 range for this one. Okay, so that's how I'm going to read each one of these. So I'm going to click right here, I'm going to type 4R. Enter. That's it. Okay, very simple. And there's multiple ways to do that. I've taught you guys how to do this before. So now I'm going to look at RTY. Very here. All right, it's going to be a 10. 10R. Enter. All right, I'm going to come down here to the YM. And what's our YM set? It's going to be 8. On 8R. Enter. And in Q, that was our oddball one, and we want to do 16, right? 16 range. 16R, enter. Bam. That's it. Now, you guys have seen how I did this before. Control A, right click, and enable all. And go. So again, key features and points, things to remember. 50K account size is ideal. Again, that's running across multiple instruments on the E-minis. You know, you can divide that by 10 if you're running on the micros. So $5,000 account for micros. Set your PC clock to Eastern time. We talked about that. Range and algo bar ones only. Now, this I need to actually modify this. Okay, but by the default, you can run that off of the ones. But again, I've adjusted this over time. Find what works, okay? We'll look at the stats for that. I'm going to show it here in a minute, and we'll flip through those because I do want to kind of check to see how that goes. We've made adjustments since Ninjatrader 7, so let's see what that does here. Not for use on FOMC. Again, very careful around FOMC or other news events, okay? That should also be mentioned, all right? So P&L results, top left, around each one. Let's go here and I want to right click and let's go to data series and I want to set these each to 1 and see how that changes things. Again, probably not going to be the best results, but back when we had some other settings in Lunchbot, that was what I had tuned it for. And in Q, this is going to be crazy. Oh yeah, in Q, we could barely get anything. So minus 18,000. So again, you don't want to just let this thing run on some of the low settings. There's a reason that you want to go and find these, right? You can't just select any, and it's not going to work on everything. So real time and historical. Let's look at the historicals on that. So there's your minus 18,000. Let's see if there was some outlier in there on. What's up there? Oof, just does not look good for algo bar ones. So easy to note, not doing on algo bar ones. I need to probably remove that from the notes. I'm gonna put that on my list to do for our next release. Close this window. So I hope you guys, I wish I put this at the beginning of the video. Very important, spread this around to everybody in the crew. Like, ignore this note. This is an old note. It is not tuned for that any farther anymore, okay? Make a run, find it. I encourage you guys to share your stuff. Like if multiple people are running optimizations, hey, share your optimizations. Show people, what settings you got. Maybe confirm those with some other members. Now, I showed you guys how to optimize over 2 weeks. Sometimes it's actually better to, to optimize for the last week, right? Look and compare the two between a single week because again, recency is key. As the market starts to shift, the more recent data is actually more important. Now, are you going to get enough data over lunch, over only 1 week's worth of data? Sometimes you will, sometimes you won't. These are things you have to take into account. Now, maybe 2 weeks is too short, right? You may also want to run it for an entire month to see, okay, well, do I get a broader spectrum of what we might want to run over a month's time period? Okay. Again, there's no specifically right answer here, and this is one of the things that can be very frustrating for fully automated traders, is that there's no absolute perfect take, and every setting that you want to get is not going to be, there's no absolute ideal, because again, you can't curve fit, which is a whole other topic for another day, and there's lots of videos out there on that. Okay, so let's go and try again. Data series here on algo bars might actually be better on NASDAQ. I believe we found, again, I usually like to look around the 8s. 8s are a good one that I like to use quite often. Let's see how the 8s are doing on NQ. Yeah, so we're getting some really good stats around the 8s on NASDAQ. We might even want to check the 10s on this, and we'll go to our data series. Go trendy 10. 2400. Okay, yeah, so 8s still look better than most of them. And again, you can kind of get that, right? Like we know, how about the 5s, right? We also know 5s are something we trade off of quite often. So look at the 5s. Not too bad, 4,500. So again, lots of things you can play with on this. If you guys have questions, put them down in the comments. I'll try to answer more of those. We'll share those. There's a whole section in Discord. I would show you guys Discord, but my internet connection for some reason has cut out. As far as winners, you'll see these kind of looking like these little green boxes at lunch. Let's look at a few of those. Scrolling back, what was our highest one? Let's do it on this one on the 8s. Go back to our data series because this will give us the most amount of trades to look at. Okay, so again, only trading around lunch. See the time of day, again, important, and you'll see the verticals as these fire off trades. The winners should have green boxes. Let's see if let's come on down here to this one. This one's going to be on the algo bar 3s, so these are a little bit higher. One of the things, I think this was on, didn't have enough days of data. Okay, there it goes. Now it's 14 now. Okay, yeah, that's looking better. All right, so here on this one, so 3,600, maybe this one will be easier to see, and let's see if we draw the boxes. Yeah, so if you look in close, there will be some cool little like green boxes. If you're zoomed in more, again, these will be a little bit more prominent when you're watching them. It's really more of an aesthetic. If you guys want to, basically count the green boxes, those are your winners. Easier to see on lower time frames, but basically there's the winner from beginning to end. Your entries, your exits, your entries, your exits. What was this one? Is this a loser? No, that's a winner. Oh yeah, there's a box there. So top to bottom, there you go. Okay, a couple other things that we want to cover here. Again, I know this is a long video. I told you there's a lot going on with these. At the same time, very simple. This is, believe it or not, this is the simplest of the robots. One parameter to optimize. But again, it's like riding a bike, driving a car. Probably more like driving a car because there's a lot more gadgets and gizmos. But once you've been doing it a while, you just know where everything is. So top right hand corner. So we haven't talked about much about this. So XW, that's your numbers of wins, numbers of losses, and max quantity. Okay, so this is the maximum winners, and this is real-time stats. So real-time stats meaning that day. Okay, so like right now we're looking at historical because we didn't run it today. But if this had run today, okay, we would show this is real-time. So if you're looking at the difference when you're looking at your stats and going, well, what's historical and real-time? This is real-time, meaning the day that you're running this, that's going to be keeping track. So if you're kind of wondering, okay, well, what are the stats for today? It's a quick look right there without having to go into your stats. Okay, down here is your current wins and losses. Again, also a real-time metric right here. Yeah, these are not super important, but they can be while you're running intraday on really more kind of some of our other strategies are more important for this. And if you're looking at the bottom left down here, like why is this P&L 0 versus this one? So again, this is historical and this is real time. Okay, so most of the information around here is designed to give you real-time information about what's going on with your setup. This is supposed to be, CW, this is consecutive winners. Sorry, I should have mentioned that earlier. So consecutive winners, consecutive losers, and this is max winners, max losers. Again, just some stats. You can look at these by, right-clicking on any chart, going into strategy performance, and going in, pulling real-time and historical. So the difference in those, you can do, real-time by itself, historical by itself, or, I always recommend just grab this one. If you really want, that day and the history, or if you want just real-time, if you're looking like, okay, well, I need to know the stats just for today, that's your real-time, right? So, yeah, that should answer it. And again, this was going to be 0 because there were no runs on today, and we're doing this after hours, so we'll close that window. Okay, so we covered a whole lot here tonight. Hopefully this was helpful to you. This is Lunchbot in its nitty-gritty details, and I believe I covered everything. If I missed something, hey, let me know. I'll do a quick video on it, on like a finalized wrap-up on part 3. If there's something you want me to clarify, help me out, get some feedback, put down the comments down below on something you want to see more of, less of, and maybe I'll do a finalized version on part 3 to clear up anything that I missed. I did this over a pretty long period of time here this evening, and I feel like I might have missed something as I went along in my notes there, but I believe we covered a whole lot, and want to be following in and watching the P&L across multiple periods of time. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. I will catch you guys on the flip side. For me, Pippi, Robbie, Lunchbot, Mod Squad, Curtis, G, and the rest of the gang. Let's hit another Big H down. See y'all.